It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, April 2nd, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, do not follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have the world news, world media, the evangelism word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. It is hump day. I hope you guys have enjoyed your week thus far, and we're already into April. Very, very excited about this. It's going to be a very, very busy month. And like I said, lots of things going on in April. I do believe there is not only, like I said, my parents are coming. There is the volleyball tournament. There is the basketball tournament. And I do believe the Flower Festival is in April too, so it's going to be a very crazy and amazing month, and I hope that many of you guys will be able to do many things also in your countries too. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can, and if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment on today's video, and let's build this community together. Let's talk, and let's put ourselves in the comments, stuff like that too. And if you're a little bit shy to go into the comments, please just as your sign of that you're active or that you're someone listening, go ahead, hit at least the like button. That would be great if you can hit the like button for this video today too. Okay, so I'm super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title: God's thoughts and our thoughts are different. And then the subtitle is God left them alone, being deceived. Do things after checking God's will. Amen. Great, hungry, and awesome message. Today is also the Rebel Pastor video comes out, and I'm going to start a new series based on this week's Sunday message because it's so good. And it's talking about the things like, why doesn't God do this? Why doesn't God do that? And it just gives you so many amazing reasons for it. So I hope that everyone's going to enjoy this one too. Okay, so it's a really, really busy week. Well, it's not really busy. It's busy and not busy at the same time. Like next week on the April 10th and 11th, there is a 2-day leaders workshop in Korea. 2 days leader workshop. And it's basically based off the overseas leaders workshop that we did right after 316 for overseas leaders. It was for like headquarters and head leaders and such. And it was such a success that it was the first time ever that leaders they want this type of education constantly. And interestingly, so some people might think like, oh, this must be something that's always done in Korea. And the answer is no. This is the first time it has ever been done even in Korea. And that's next week. So we did it for the overseas countries first. But so thankful that it was done. And, people ask, like I said before, people do ask, why hasn't this been done in the past? But it's never been done anywhere. So all the countries are coming here. They're learning from all the headquarters over here. And they're talking about the different experiences and the things that they've done. And, we're basically going off the education and the actions and experiences we've had, putting the word into action. So, that is something that keeps me super busy. Like even today in the morning, before the Rebel Pastor video comes out, I'm going to go to Costco because we need to prepare for the leaders workshop, and we're going. We got to buy snacks and food and all these other different things. So that is something that I'm going to be there from the morning. Probably going to be by the time you're listening to this, I should be leaving like 9 in the morning to go to Costco too. So I'm actually quite excited because Costco is one of those places that just reminds me of home. Right? So, that's something that I'm going to be doing this morning. Oh, okay. So I got another testimony for you guys. Yeah, I got these testimonies coming out like galore. So remember I told you guys last week that I went to get like this. I told you that cars in Korea have to get this like regular check every 2 years. And it's just to make sure that the cars on the road are safe. So every 2 years, it costs about like $25 to get this test done. And the test is basically, are all your lights working? Is your turn lights on? Like, does your turn lights work? Is your engine like emissions or whatever? It's very, very basic, easy check. Takes about 20 to 25 minutes. Super easy. Right? So what happened last week was I went to go get that check done because it has to be done by April 15th. And lo and behold, they're like, oh, your brake light's out, so we cannot do it. Like, you're not going to pass it if your brake lights don't work. So I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, it's not going to work. So I was like, oh, man, that sucks. So then the guy told me that the 2 brake lights in the back that need to be replaced, it's going to cost like somewhere around like $170 per light, and I need to do 2 of them, which means it's like $350. So I'm like, oh, that's so crazy, right? And then I called the member, the elder who has a car dealership, who actually sold the car to me, right? And he's like, oh, really? Just come check it out. Come bring it to Daejeon, right? Daejeon's only like 35-minute drive away. And I went there, and he's like, yeah, I got this for you. So he's like, oh, we'll do each side. Instead of like, for like $170 on each side, we'll do it for like $35 per side. I was like, holy smokes. So I was super happy about this. So, I dropped the car off. The elder and I went out to get this amazing lunch, and we got back and they fixed the car within 35 minutes. And then it comes down to like $70 for the 2 lights. And I'm just so thankful. And as I'm like, hey, so where do I pay? And the elder's like, no, I got this. Don't worry about this. And he's like, yeah, the car's been 2 months. I didn't know that there was these brake light problems, so he just paid for them. So I was like so thankful to God that, it's like I was telling you guys last week that when God is helping us, in the grand scheme of things, the things that he helps us with are so petty and small, and is not really a big thing. It doesn't really affect anything in God's history. But even looking at this, like, God not only helped me to cheapen the price and make my heart feel at ease, like, oh my gosh, it's going to be only $35 per side. But then he goes even one step further and inspires this elder to just pay for it altogether. And when he said that to me, I was like, God, like, you're going this far? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to help me this much for something that's this insignificant? And it made me realize once again that what God is doing and what God is doing for us, whether big or small, I don't think it's really about how big it is or how small it is. It's really just about God wanting to make stories with us, which means it's just about this relationship. This relationship becomes the number one thing, and that's what matters. And we have to realize that, yeah, this is what God truly, truly wants for each of us, and we have to be those that are just ready to make these stories with God so that we can testify, and we can just, one of the things Sunseem said in the past is, one of the reasons God makes stories with us is because when we eventually meet in heaven, we can talk about those things. And we could talk about those stories and laugh and cry and just talk about the joy and all these things together, because that's what fuels our conversations too. Like, how many times have you talked to your friend and you bring up an old story and you're just like, oh, dude, remember this? And you just laugh about it. And the crazier part is, you don't even talk about it once. Sometimes you and your friends will talk about that story over and over and over again and just talk about new details. And I think that's something that God really, really wants with us, right? And so I was just so thankful. I really, really was. And then what made it even better after is he was telling me like, oh, remember the regular check I was supposed to get from the other place? And he's like, oh yeah, It really depends on the place you go to. Some people are really strict with it, and some people aren't. He's like, hey, just do it here in the place that he works at. He's like, yeah, the person will do it much easier, right? And of course, they work with these people all the time, in and out, 20 minutes, and costing me like $25, so cheap, right? So I was just like, wow, all right, $25. It was really, really cheap. And then I was just like, awesome. And then, my car's all ready to go for the next 2 years and everything else. I'm just happy, excited, thankful, grateful, all these other different things. And yeah, just a lot of things really just worked out on this Tuesday. On this Tuesday night right now for me, it's already like 11 p.m. But yeah, I'm just thankful and grateful. I was trying to use my bank card. My bank card expired in what was it, in March? So it's already April 1st, April 2nd now, right? So my card doesn't work. Went to the bank. They fixed everything for me. Super thankful about that too. So, everything, all these things, I'm just thankful. I am grateful. And yeah, it's something where I just had a thankful day with God. And, this is so petty too, so small. But someone from IMD recommended me an awesome cafe in Daejeon. So nice, just chilled and prepped today's podcast, prepped the Rebel Pastor podcast video too. I just prepped everything in that really, really nice cafe, good coffee too. So for me, super relaxing day. And of course, it's still Tuesday for me, right? Which means it's still April Fool's. I didn't really think about. Well, I did do one April Fool's joke. So I called someone from Australia, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna be the head leader of your church." And they're like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "April Fool's," and I did it really quick because I didn't want to go too far with it. But yeah, it's a little bit tiring to fool someone. It's like to come up with all these ideas and stuff. But today, very chilled, very relaxed, and just alone time. I was thankful, right? And like I said, this elder of the car dealership we had a really good talk about his children. Because remember he's got second gen children. He's telling me that his son no longer comes to church. The daughter still comes out, not as into it, but the son no longer comes to church. He's just talking about the patience that is needed for your children. And one thing we did talk about, and it was interesting because he was telling me his testimony because he came to Providence through the army. Like while he was in the army, he was evangelized. Once a month, he would get leave, right? And every time he'd go to church to learn the word, it was only once a month. And he just telling me this amazing story. And at the end of it, he told me, and it was a really deep realization. He's like, think about this. He says, I have this amazing story. This story between me and God that keeps me here in Providence. But my children, they haven't had that story yet. They haven't had that amazing experience. They were just here all the time. And he's like, as a second-gen parent, we need to be patient and wait for it. We need to wait for that time, we need to wait for it, that time where they can have their own personal experience. And he's like, even if I asked you, you'll have your story. Then you ask the next, they all have their stories, but these second gens, they don't, right? They just don't have these because they're just born here. They don't have that story with God, with the Lord, whatever it is. They've never, most of them have never even met Sunsim. And if you don't have that story, that experience between you and God, you don't have that thing that like convicts you to stay and like, oh, I remember this moment that I had with God kind of thing. So it was just a really good story, and I hope it's something that, that we will realize more and more about these second gens, that we just got to be patient for them to have that story together with the Lord, Guys, we're already on the third day of the 1 million person ministry condition. And this is something that Sunsim said. Remember when I told you guys this about the doctor's testimony? And the doctor testified that right before Sunsim was taken away in October of 2022 to go to the trial and everything like that, the last thing that Sunsim said before he went in was the one thing he wanted to accomplish before he died was to have 1 million members, right? And 1 million is a huge number because we're like a 20th, like we're so far away from it. We're like a 20th of it right now, probably not even that much. And now we're praying about this 1 million ministry thing. And it's interesting is I wonder, like in my head is like, oh, I wonder why that number's so important. Like, what is the significance of it? Like, will something happen if we reach 1 million? Will all persecution and slander stop when we hit 1 million? And it's something that I think it's something we should really pray about too, is because why would Sunseem say that he wants to hit 1 million? Is it just for the sake of having that number? Just to say, oh God, look, I hit 1 million in my lifetime? Or is there something even more significant about it that we should think about too? And if once we get there, we're like, this is why it's so important. Because when Sunseem talks about evangelism, remember when we started the year, he said something very interesting. He said, there is a reason why I tell you to do these things. I cannot tell you exactly why, but you just have to put the words into action, right? There is a reason. There is something that we cannot see, we cannot understand, but we don't do it because of the reason. We're doing these things because it's God's will. We do it because it's what God wants. And I think that's a very important thing for us to understand too, is sometimes it's not about, oh, well, what's going to happen if we do it? It's more about, we don't do it because of the result. And it's very apparent with our life right now. Why? Think about it. Even the life we have right now, like right now at this moment, how many of the things have turned out well, powerful, and like, oh, this is a great, no. We go through tribulations and difficulties and sacrificing and suffering and all these other different things. If we were really doing it for the result, most of us wouldn't be here. We do it because it's God's will. We do it because it's the thing that God wants. And you'll see the people that leave Providence are the ones, or the people that leave God are the ones that are only doing it for a specific result, or they're expecting that it has to work out. But it's not like that. And I think it's something that we have to really get our hearts and our minds to think about very clearly. And we have to get ourselves to understand, yeah, this is what we should be doing. So I hope it's something that all of us will understand about the things that we do for God. It is not for the sake of just, for the sake of, oh, we're going to do this because if we hit 1 million people, then Sunseem is free. No, that shouldn't be it. Why? Because we don't even know if that's the will. All we care about is God's will, right? And God's will should be the number one thing that matters more than anything else, right? So, before we go into the evangelism word study, there is one thing I do want to share, okay? So I do want to share with you with this one thing, because do you guys remember when I told you, I think last week I went a little bit more deeply into it. I've been talking about this for maybe like 3-4 weeks already. 3-4 weeks ago, I first brought it up, and then I brought it up last week too. And I told you guys about, KJS and how she has such a huge influence. And because she had such a big influence on this history, she was so high up, and she was almost controlling things. I think unconsciously we don't really realize how much we've been affected. And I sent a letter of repentance because I was like, Sunseem, I've realized that I'm really affected by this, and I don't even know it. And I don't want to end up like her. And I've got to do things differently. And I sent this like even before 316, and with another report, right? And just today, I got a reply. And it was like, I told Sunseem, like, man, I didn't say man. I was like, I really got to pray deeply about this. So I got to pray this poison out of me, because I want to do things the right way. But if I keep thinking about it like this, I'm going to just end up like her, like KJS. So I'm not going to say the whole letter, but the key point that came, it was so simple. And like the simplicity of it was, the answer was basically, if you run hard, was it run hard? One second, let me just double check this so I'm not going to mess this up because this is important, right? Okay, it says, geez. Oh, okay, here we go. Let me just bring this up. Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, okay. So the answer is basically if you work really hard, if you run really hard, then it'll work. I was like, huh. Now, tell me, guys, have you guys ever heard this before? Of course we've heard this, like, oh, run hard, oh, be diligent, right? And I was thinking to myself is, for some reason, it didn't feel simple. And sometimes I think when we get that one sentence answer, sometimes it is the actual answer, and sometimes it is the first step towards an answer. And when I look at it, we see that simple answers can lead to the bigger answer. It may not be the actual answer that resolves it, but it is the first step that will lead me to that place where I can say, oh, okay, I know what the right thing to do is. And I think this is one of those things that really, that I think is sometimes we think this way when it comes to listening to the word too. When the word is too simple and too easy, just like, oh, work hard, oh, just evangelize. To actually, like, we think it's too simple or too easy to be an answer to something that's really difficult or deeply rooted. But the reality is that it is the answer, and we will never know it until we actually do it. And I think that's a really sad part about human beings too, is sometimes we prejudge something and we say, oh, that's not the answer. Oh, that can't be it. Oh, could it really be just that? And I think that is something that we look at and we'll say, whoa, is that really the answer? And I think that's something that we have to get our hearts and our minds to think about, is sometimes it's much different. It's so simple, but the way God has made things is a lot of things can be answered by one solution. And when something's so general like running hard, when you run hard, there are multiple things that happen to us. We can change, we can be, like, we get more developed, we understand, we realize, and we can change, right? And I think that's something that we have to sometimes get out of our heads, is that prejudgment thinking, oh, is this really the answer? But we cannot say anything until we actually do it. And then we can say, oh, this was or was not the answer, or something along that line. So I was very, very grateful and thankful that I was able to kind of get an answer to see it. And the reason I say it's kind of an answer, because I will never know until I put the words into action, right? That's it. This is going to be the only way I'm going to ever know, is when I finally do it, right? So lots of things to think about, a lot of things in my heart and my mind. And I hope it's something that we can really open our hearts and our minds to even more. All right. So that's segment one for today. I hope it's something that can open your eyes and your heart a little bit more. And of course, we had the evangelism word study and then world news after that. So let's move into the first music break of the day.
You lift me up from falling, I feel your warm embrace, breathing life into my withering spirit, pouring out your love and grace. So I think to myself, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. You pulled me out of darkness so many thousands of times. You gave me strength and courage, everything that I need in life. Look at all the countless blessings, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand what it means to be in providence, Holding God's truth in our hands, we fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. All the wondrous miracles you've shown, only here in Providence. Providence, push forward, we'll run till the end. With our solid faith, we'll repay you with all our heart, will and life. And now the seals are broken, the treasures now revealed. You've shared his highest wisdom, valued secrets of how to live. Looking back at all the memories, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand, what a blessing it is that you're here, acting with God hand in hand. We've received the greatest rapture, we've gained eternal joy. This is God's final history, never will it be destroyed. Providence will shine our brightest light. For your dreams, your word fills the earth. Yeah, we'll preach, gain all that you want to achieve. Even if the world forsakes you and they don't understand, we're more than proud to be here, holding God's truth in our hands. We fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. Your words, your precious providence, we'll cherish it till the end. Providence, we'll stand till the end. Providence, we'll live with our God. Providence, love God with our heart, will and life.
All right, so let's get into today's evangelism word study. And today I'm going to just share with you what is happening in Korea when it comes to evangelism and how, evangelism is not easy. And I would say that there isn't really a super successful church that is evangelizing really well. There is one. So even on April 12th, Wonmyeong is going to have their first passing ceremony of the year, and they're going to pass 12 people, and it's only April 12th. However, these are all people from last year that have not fully passed yet. So we're not going to really know how successful this year is, and probably not until the end or the beginning of next year, right? But it's kind of cool because they passed 13 people in December, and then now it's April and another 14 people. That would be kind of cool if they could do this every 3 to 4 months, because that would be I would think that would be a high success. But let's see how that goes too. But like I'm saying, is evangelism is something that's very, very difficult, and you may think that in the Western countries or the other countries that it's going to be very, very that it's not easy, right? But can you imagine how hard it is in Korea, where they have the trials and they're in the newspapers and everyone knows about them, and especially like in Wonmyeong or Kumsan or these areas, right? Where this is where Wonmyeong is. So we're gonna have the leaders workshop next week, and the big theme, like the biggest thing that they're gonna talk about and discuss, is ministry. So it's like a 2-day event, receiving education, and then also time of discussion where churches can get together and discuss and talk with each other what's going on, kind of thing, right? So I think a couple things that we can learn from this, because let's take a look at some of the things they're going to talk about during the leaders workshop when it comes to ministry. Of course, internet ministry becomes a big thing. The Warmyungdong evangelism event becomes a big thing, like the monthly huge event where they slaughter a pig and then all the newcomers come and such. I think the last event, which was last weekend, I think there was something like 60 or 80 newcomers, which is really awesome, right? So those are like the two big ones, but there's going to be a lot of discussion. And like if you look at internet ministry, even though it's such a big thing, what is going to be the hardest thing for everyone? And I think obviously it's going to be the hardest part for everyone when it comes to internet ministry is actually how do we get those people who subscribe, or how do we use internet ministry to actually bring lives into this history? And I think that is the big discussion is, look, you guys want us to do internet ministry, but how are we actually going to use internet ministry to bring people into this history? That is a very difficult and hard thing that we have to think about, right? So there's number one. Number one is we do need to think about that. Second, and that's going to be discussed too, is how do we bring people to Warmyungdong through the internet ministry, or bringing them to church, or getting to study the Bible, okay? The second one that's going to be the Warmyungdong evangelism event, and that happens once a month. And there's going to be a lot of discussion of how to bring people to Warmyungdong, what is working, what's not working, how to do it better. And like one of the big things that we were talking about in our for our headquarters meeting is like making sure, like one of the hard parts that like campus has is campus are bringing newcomers. They are coming. So the bringing of the people is not the issue. The bigger issue is how to introduce and how to talk to these people after the event is over. So there's no problem with campus students coming, but there's no follow-up, and people aren't being connected after. And it's partly because people don't really know the full direction of how things are happening. So this is why one of the reasons why we're having this leaders workshop for ministry, especially. Like, there's going to be other educations there too, but people really, like the leaders need to know clearly what is the direction for evangelism, for how to do the Warmyungdong evangelism events, how to do internet ministry and such, and be able to discuss with each other what you're doing in your, what you're doing inside your churches right now, what's working and what's not. And I think it's great to have this gathering of head leaders, the gathering of minds, of leaders of each church, so that they can come together, discuss, and find out better ways to do these things also. So even for me, I looked at it as like, yeah, I think it's something that's super important. And I think it's something where foreign countries, we don't have as many people, but we can still use the same concept, and we do need that time to do what? And the one thing I do like about this happening in April, the middle of April, is this is happening in the middle of April, which means that and these like evangelism events and internet ministry has already been going on for a while, which means that they've had 4 months to work on it. And then after 4 months, they're able to discuss of all the different actions that they took. And I think that's going to be a big thing is, yes, you tried it out. Yes, we're working on these things, but now we got to figure out, okay, so now that you tried it out, what's next? How can we improve it? And I think this is a big thing that we need to work on when it comes to foreign countries too, is not so much about finding the perfect idea right away. It's Sunteam gave us a direction. We got to try it out. And as we try it out, we get better and better. As we try it out, we see the pros and the cons. We see the good and the bad. We see even the ugly. We're like, okay, how is this going to work? And I think this is one of the big things that we need to do together too, is it's not just about finding the perfect answer, because Sunseam will give us the answer that God gives. But the success of it is really determined by what? is actually determined by our responsibility and how well we actually do it. And I think that's something that we have to kind of open our hearts and our minds to think about at a much different level also. So either way, that's something that I was thinking about, and something that I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, this is something that we should be thinking about a lot more clearly too. Either way. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up for you guys when it comes to evangelism, the word study today, just kind of give you an idea of what's happening in Korea, so you guys can get some ideas of what you can do for the future too. Okay, so either way, that is Evangel Word Study. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Have any questions or comments, go ahead, put it in the comments below. Okay, so yeah, before we get into the last segment, which is news from around the world, news media, whatever you want to call it, let's get into the last music break of the day. Okay, so let's get into today's final segment. And of course, every Wednesday, we are now doing a new segment on world media, like news going on around the world. As Sunseem said in multiple message and in this week's message, we can see what God is doing by looking at the news. So we're going to look at a couple, like the top 3 or 4 different news things that are happening that we may not know what's going on. But a couple big things happened last week, guys. Number one is you guys heard about the 7.7 magnitude earthquake in Myanmar. That was huge, guys. This last Friday was this huge earthquake in Myanmar. And we know it's not a developed country, so a lot of the infrastructure is not very strong. There has been a lot of death. Like the death toll from the quake and also the aftershocks is already past 2,700, and hundreds are still missing. So the figures are expected to continually rise. But guys, we're already going to be hitting up to 3,000 people that have died from this earthquake. So residents in the country, and residents in the country's second most populous city, say they have spent sleepless nights wandering the streets in despair as food and water supplies dwindle. All of it's happened. It's like the reason why there's so much death is poor infrastructure and a patchwork of civil conflicts are severely hampering the relief effort in Myanmar, where the military has a history of suppressing the scale of national disasters. The death toll is expected to keep rising as rescuers gain access to more collapsed buildings and cut off districts. So there's a huge thing that happened last Friday. Also, for those of you guys don't know, there's like crazy wildfires going on in South Korea. Right? So the big question is, why have the wildfires in South Korea been so devastating? So it's not just the strong winds, the dense forest, unusually dry weather, right? That's usually the deadly combination that experts say is fueling the largest wildfires in South Korea's history. So the largest in history, guys. So this is not something that's a normal thing. It's in the southeast of Korea, and it's already burned through like 36,000 hectares, which is like almost 90,000 acres. And that's from Thursday yesterday. So it's even more, which means half the size of New York City has been burned in Korea. And remember, Korea is not that big. America's huge land. Korea is not. Already around 30 people have died so far, and tens of thousands have been displaced. And authorities actually believe it started by human activity. Like this fire started from that. But, the main drivers of this fire is dry land and strong gusts of wind sweeping over inland regions. And another thing that they said was very interesting is that there's such a high concentration of pine trees in this northern area where it's happening, where the fires are burning. And they say the pine trees contain resin, which acts like oil, which intensifies the fires when it's ignited. And this resin causes wildfires to burn faster, stronger, and longer. So, yeah, this is the biggest fire in South Korean history. The third news is Iceland. In Iceland, a volcano has erupted. So, on this, one of the peninsulas, a volcano has erupted in southwest Iceland after a nearby town and the Blue Lagoon Spa, which is a very popular tourist area. They were evacuated, and the Iceland's meteorological office said the eruption started around 9:45 a.m. local time, and is just north of the small town, north of a small town called Grandavik, and basically within less than an hour, like the eruption started, and then there was a crack that had opened in the ground, and it was like 700 meters wide, and it continues to grow. And the eruption occurred after earthquakes hit the area known as the Sunnook Crater Range, and that was around 6:30 a.m. local time at that time. And this is another big thing where, think about it, there's a crack in the ground that's 700 meters and growing. So those are the three news articles I am going over today. Hope if you guys have any other news that you want to bring up, please let me know. A friend of mine, like on the day on Friday, was the one that opened my eyes, like, hey, there's a huge earthquake, and they sent me these videos and stuff. But I hope that we can also keep praying for this. But most importantly, I think the thing that's going to stop all this is either going to be evangelism, or it's going to continue with what's happening with Sunseam right now too. But either way, that is something that is going on. Hope it's something that you guys are really, it opens our eyes more to what is happening around the world. All right. So there it is, guys. That is today's Wednesday podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have an amazing, awesome, and great day. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know.